Picture this: 3 library staff members trapped inside the South Charleston Public Library. Aaron, Toby, and Josh, each with divergent tastes, tasked with watching each other's films. Can they survive with their sanity intact? Find out on Real Opposites, a library podcast about movies.
Hey everyone, and welcome to The Real Opposites. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Toby.
And we are back to discuss the movie that was chosen last time. It was Toby's pick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
Are we sure this wasn't your pick?
This is definitely
it
me.
definitely wasn't my pick. And it's The Witch from 2015. So I guess, Toby, if you want to start out, tell us why you chose this movie.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else to say besides it is. Well, I have lots of things to say. I will say lots of things, but to
I
get
didn't
us
expect you
started,
to start off with that.
Right.
to get us started, The Witch is simply my favorite horror movie. I did my tally. It is my favorite. And it's probably my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It just hits for me, and I understand why it wouldn't be other people's. It is a slow burn. It does have like a lot of, I think it has to resonate to really like hit that way. But for me, it's way up there. I just really love. I love the setting. I really love the mythos that it like explores. That the ending just is so good, and I love that there are no right choices. Thomason's choice throughout the movie is between a form of self-destroying evil and a form of an actual evil. And it doesn't really matter. Like we're in Puritan society, and like the society in itself is asking her to deny herself, and the choice that she's given is asking her to sacrifice her soul. And I think that's a beautiful setup for a movie.
It is.
It's like, do you destroy yourself to live properly, and is that even possible? Can you, within the giving of like this society that gives all of these so strict rules about who you have to be and how you have to dress and how you have to talk, and you can't even think it doesn't matter if you make the action, thinking the evil thought is still the sin. That in itself is kind of diabolical, because like, how can any human do that? No one's capable. And she's and I'll get into some of that if we ask about it later, but like, or the other option is, in the context of the film, everything is very real. If there is really a devil, then there's really a hell. And then if there's really a devil, then there's really a heaven. And it's like, well, the other option is, if you get to be who you want to be, then that costs you your soul. And I think that's terrifying and wonderful by the end of it. And there's like all this other stuff that this just hits a really specific hyper like interest of mine, which is
almost like it was made specifically for you.
This feels
Right.
like it was made for me. If someone had,
if you were gonna make a movie, it would be like
it would be this. Yeah, this was made for Toby. It was like, it hits like a bunch of things. There's a lot of references to witches and mythology and Gnostic mythology, and like even things like there's a little cutscene where it's like there's almost a moment where you're like, well, is this real or is it ergot? Is it it's like they cut to the corn, and it kind of gives this image of this blighted corn that, if you know anything about witch mythology, is like that was basically a lot of like witch. A way that we try to explain away the witch trials is using ergot as people were hallucinating. But there's actually a lot of science there that suggests that, yes, ergot makes you hallucinate, but it wasn't just affecting children. It was affecting mostly teenagers, and it wasn't just affecting them either. And everyone in the village is seeing the same thing. So it's kind of a way we try to to push away the blame, downplay
the atrocity
that happened there. Anyway, so I really loved it. Josh has seen it, I believe. So we'll start with Aaron, I guess. Like, what'd you think?
Well, first thoughts are I would hate to see if you had something to say about a movie, seeing as that monologue was started with, I won't say much.
I
don't
have
much
so
to
much,
say.
so much to talk about.
So I was really excited to watch this one because of what it's about, and it's also A24, which I usually really enjoy A24. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I'll never watch it again.
It was very slow for you, I imagine.
So I like a movie that's a slow burn if it's filled with good stuff happening. Like this one is just a slow burn, and it's like nothing is happening.
I think there's plenty.
There's lots happening.
It's just it's not.
I don't think there's enough to happen that it needs to be. Like I could have watched all that happen in 30 minutes, and I would have been just as probably better.
I mean, I could see this playing as like a short film, like a 30-minute film.
I feel like it would,
but I think
make a better short film.
It doesn't like shortening it that much would. You don't feel as like transported to this time.
Yeah.
That's the thing I take away most from the movie is like it feels authentic. It feels like somebody just placed a camera, like somebody from the future had a camera and just happened to be on this small plantation with this family.
That's because it's exceedingly well researched.
It is, and you can feel that authenticity come through. Like
I also do not like period pieces.
Oh well, then that's
So I think that probably took me out of it a lot. But I've said on here many times that I'm not someone that goes in. I go into a movie trying not to see what's happening. Like I want to be surprised. There was not a twist I didn't see coming.
Yeah, no, that's
no, it's not like a really twisty movie.
Yeah, it's not twisty.
But I mean, like
I feel like it's ultimately like you know the conclusion.
Yeah, 100%
where
from the
she's
beginning.
Gonna end up.
It's important that you know the conclusion.
But it's the journey that she goes through getting there.
Yeah,
I guess
feel
it
like.
just nothing. I don't know. It just didn't do anything
I
for
get
me.
that.
Like it is a fine movie.
Yeah.
Like I like how you were talking about all the different things that are put into this movie. Definitely, it's well researched, and I think maybe that's some of it. To me, I already knew everything.
Yeah.
So it's not like anything was even being introduced to me. I don't know. There was just nothing for me to latch on. I did watch the whole thing, which I definitely thought about turning it off, but I did watch the whole thing. And
I mean, we're like 3 years, 4 years into this podcast. Like at this point, you have to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Like you can't just not watch the
I've
movie.
never not watched the
can't-
movie. Well,
well,
other than mostly Toby's episodes.
Yeah, mostly my episodes. You just refuse to watch them.
Yeah.
So
No, I didn't refuse.
We
I just
all
fell asleep.
know you fell asleep during Mulholland Drive.
And Vampire Hunter D.
No, I watched Mulholland Drive.
Did you?
Unfortunately, unless I said I fell asleep at that time, but I don't think so.
I
But
think you said you weren't sure if you fell asleep.
I'm pretty
If it was a
sure.
dream or not.
Oh, that is true. There was a point that I thought I missed something, so I thought I fell asleep, but I hadn't missed anything. And in fact, I did that with this movie too. I knew I didn't fall asleep, but I was like, man, did my ADHD kick in and I missed something?
No.
Because at the end of the movie, I was just like, oh, okay. What was the point?
But I love the ending.
But-
the final ending of like, do you want to live? Like it's so good. And at that point, you're rooting for it.
I just feel like,
Yeah.
I guess, but I feel like that was coming from the beginning. But when
It
I
is.
finished this movie, the first thing I did was Google what happened in The Witch. And because I was like, okay, maybe there's something that I missed. And I read this big, long article on it, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I
Well,
saw.
I think maybe you're missing like the. So some movies are plot driven. This is not one of those movies. This is a mood, an atmosphere piece.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think
So-
you have to catch that.
Yeah,
this
I
is
guess
about-
so.
That didn't latch on
This
me.
is about feeling it. This is
Yeah.
not this is not a movie where like it is about Roger. I think Eggers does a really good job of making you question if Thomason is doing this.
Yeah.
You question like you know that she's not, but like you for a minute there you like kind of question it.
Oh,
Yeah.
see. Yeah, it
It's
didn't do
about
that to me at all.
feeling
Yeah.
the
I think that's what it is. It just, there wasn't anything that pulled me in that deep.
Mhm.
Is probably the problem. Because there was, I mean, I knew all along she wasn't doing it. I knew, like one time I Googled, was there a twist? Because I was like, oh, maybe I missed some kind of twist. And it was like the black goat is the devil. And I was like, no,
obviously.
obviously. Like from the beginning, that's obvious.
Yeah.
it's talking to the kids. Like,
Yeah.
hello,
But
but
you're supposed to question if it is or not, though. Like, I think,
Like, are they hallucinating it, or
are they children
yeah?
playing a game?
maybe I just believe too deep in that stuff.
So-
But I was like, yeah, it's definitely.
So
devil.
we've figured out that if someone tells Aaron that they are talking to animals, then he will believe.
I'm gonna believe it's Satan. 100%. Yeah.
This little Yorkie told me
Well, if it's a black goat,
All right.
a black goat,
just a black goat.
which is often a symbol of
It is.
devil or
yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
of something. So I mean, it's like
It's their Ronald
if it
McDonald.
was
Do
a,
you know
if it was
why?
a white sheep, it might pull me in.
Do you know why goats are a symbol of like devilry?
Satanic.
Oh, because they're evil.
No, it's because they're horny. So, no, like seriously. So goats are a symbol of devilry because it goes back to they are believed to be sacrificed on the witch's Sabbath, but also because, and that goes back to the reason that we equate horned creatures with Satan is because we equate sex and lust with satanic activity, which we equate to satyrs. So the goat is the satyr of like Greek and Roman mythology brought into the modern era. So that's why goats are often affiliated with Satan. The goat-headed man comes from satyrs, but then then to Baphomet in like the during the Crusades, and then on to like modern mythology about Satan.
But I will say, goats are also evil.
Well, and they're weird looking. They've got those weird eyes. They're not.
Oh, I just
particularly
meant
nice.
like we had one next to us when I was growing up, and it knocked over people all the time, and then would trample on them.
Yeah. Well, apparently Charlie,
really
the
mean.
goat who plays Black Phillip, was also evil. They had
I think
lots
they're
of,
just very temperamental creatures.
they had lots of
seems like.
issues with him, and like the scene where he's in with the kids, where he's like prancing around in the background, all very like they had to keep him on a leash because he would attack the children. He did break.
It probably was the devil.
He did break Ralph Ineson's rib.
Oh,
at one point during
wow.
filming.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That sucks.
anyway.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, I think it's well done. It's a nice looking movie.
It's beautiful.
I don't know what it is with, and I need to rewatch Hereditary. I know I need to watch that again, but I don't know what it is about horror movies in A24 and why there has to be naked old people involved all
Because
the
it's
time.
creepy.
Yeah, because it's unsettling. Because you
I'm
know,
just like, what?
society's told you, through media and that, old people don't have sex. Old people aren't like that's not.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to see that.
Right.
So seeing it, I mean, it goes back to like The Shining or something.
Yeah.
Like when you,
Yeah.
the old rotten lady,
Yeah.
in the tub. Like it's just,
It's scary.
it's scary.
Okay.
For because it feels like it's something
It doesn't do that for
you're
me.
not supposed to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
That and also
That makes sense, and I'm glad you said that because honestly, I've never understood it. I'm
And-
always like, what?
Ugh.
I don't get it.
it makes you look at your own like mortality also, like to a certain extent. It's like the
Yeah.
the degradation of the
Okay.
body is scary. The idea that like at one point, presumably this person was 20,
virile
and-
22-year-old.
and is now like fallen into this like what we see as like disarray, and then is sexually aggressive
Right.
as well, is very like it's off-putting. Well, I guess I'll let Josh talk a little bit.
No, I mean, I still like the movie. I saw it when it came out, and I liked it then. It's been a few years since I've watched it. I watched it over Halloween, this past Halloween, and still enjoy it. Still a good movie. I probably rate it a little less than I initially did. I really like the slow burn. The thing I appreciate most is the appearance of the film. Like I love the natural lighting. It just feels like for 90 minutes I'm
There.
in this farmhouse.
Right.
You're
And-
isolated.
Yeah, I'm isolated just
yeah.
with the kids and the family.
Mhm.
And it still really works. Anya Taylor-Joy's wonderful. I love the her arc. Like where it's going, and that's I think that the inevitability of that is appealing, and the ending is just pulled off brilliantly.
yeah.
I love the ending.
And the imagery, the like cockerel feathers, and like the way the devil is done, and just that little is so perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's believable. I guess
Yeah.
I usually don't like things don't need to be grounded. I think in certain instances, this kind of more subdued style, I think it's perfect for the movie. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big. I'm very fascinated by the Salem witch, like the whole folklore around that.
This is a prequel to it. It's
It
not
is,
during the time
which
that the witch trials
I
happened.
learned a little bit from the 7-hour video that I watched.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even hit play.
Maybe
'cause I'd
like
already
30 minutes
Yeah.
of or something.
Yeah.
But the part I was watching was about the history and how this is like a prequel to that. I mean, I think it's just one of those, like, I've seen it, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times, and it's not one of those that I feel like I need to watch every couple of years, or that necessarily gets better on each viewing. I feel like I just like it about the same. And I do like, so I think it does really capture what's so appealing about that time period in witches, and it really encapsulates the fascination, especially I imagine for a woman.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I think you were talking about it a little bit earlier, but like, you were either bound by these puritanical laws, or you were free and a witch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the witch represents freedom. I think it still does.
Yeah, it still does.
For a lot of women, and men. So I don't know.
I mean, there are men that are witches throughout history, and also, like
just our society views it. There's definitely more of a female role, but no, and I really like it. I think it's probably this and The Lighthouse are still his best movies.
Well, there's like the thing for me about this that appeals is at that time, or actually through history until, and even continuing till today, there are two, like a woman must be a mother, and a woman must be subservient. She must be chaste. She must be whatever, and that is less so today, but it is something that still lives within our religious communities today, for sure. And so if you, for most of history, if you were not a mother and you were not in some way subservient or living with a man, so you were seen as sexually promiscuous at that point in time, if you did not have a man who was over you, then you were obviously of Satan, because the Bible says you
were evil.
You were evil. And those, like, there's something, so I mean, the witch trials, like, if you look at like the stuff that happened there, most of the women who were accused were widows. They were landowners. They lived apart from the community in some way. And
it was always this image of this old lady who lived
this hag
down the creek, in this kind of maybe dilapidated house or something, or she lived by herself, like that.
Yeah,
it's hermit.
Yeah,
out there in the woods.
Witch.
I just keep thinking of Blair Witch.
And notably, and one that, like, there, for real.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
yeah, like
that's why that legend, like the legend in Blair Witch, works so well, because it feels like that would have been a folk tale, like passed down,
And the witches eat children in mythology because, well, they don't have children, so therefore they must hate children. They must want them for nefarious reasons, or they must, like, this, like, stolen babe idea, like, and but also witches eat children. I learned weirdly through, like, this thing, as the reason that witches eat children in fairy tales is because people abandoned their children in the woods,
right?
When they were starving, like they didn't have enough money. If you didn't shockingly eat the child outright to help with surviving the winter, then
I want to see that movie.
Throwing the kid out into the forest was not. It's a real thing. So in like the 1500s, the church had to start putting out things about that children are people in order to keep people from eating their children, like, or just abandoning them in the woods. They did.
That's hilarious.
That's it. I'm hungry and you're annoying.
Just the dad just is looking at the 3-year-old, and all he sees is just like a rotisserie chicken.
I mean, it's so anathema today, but like that was the reality. Like women, children, and servants weren't people.
Right.
So like if the going gets tough, like
they're second-class, third-class citizens.
Oh,
yeah. They're not people, and according to the law, so they had to like start doing something about that. And unfortunately, like the myth of the witch kind of came out of that, like trying to get people to care about their kids, beyond extra farm labor and status symbols. It's very disheartening, but like this, I don't know, man. Like there's so many layers to this. Like I love that Caleb's speech, his like the talk he gives is directly pulled from the Salem. One of the so talking about good sitting upon a girl. So like his whole like his convulsions and stuff were what a girl said in her dying throes that got someone burned at the stake.
Wow.
The speech that Thomason gives when she's trying to scare her little sister is pretty much word for word Tituba's confession about like what she did, which was obviously beaten out of her. She was a Native American slave, supposedly from the Caribbean. So a lot of times she gets shown as African American. No one really knows because they obviously did not preserve. She did survive the witch trials, but she was basically beaten and coached to say all of those things that then and give names that were in the devil's book. And it's like I don't know, like this is a microcosm of if you made a movie specifically to appeal to me, this does it. The father is he's a separatist, he's a Baptist, most likely. That's why the children are unbaptized at the age they are. Protestant, like the Pilgrims would have never let children go that long without being unbaptized unless you were a separatist from the like main church. Baptists believe in the age of
so that's why they're
reason.
Getting banished in the beginning, I would imagine.
Yeah, because he's a separatist. So they are actually most likely in Salem. Because Plymouth, which is the other major colony at the time in Massachusetts, because they do say New England, was taken over by Baptists instead of like Calvinist, like your regular run-of-the-mill Calvinists who were part of the Church of England. Okay. So the only other large major settlements are Salem. So if you look at through like that lens, I have too much to say, but if you look at through that lens, then this is a prequel to the witch trials. Then what if Thomason is the witch in the woods that taunts those future witches into evil in this like alternate history of Salem? I think absolutely could a woman having gone through what she has gone through just be driven mad and wander out into the wilderness and in the last throes of some kind of ergot poisoning that her family has all succumbed to. Is this what she sees? Is this like the end of I think that's totally a plausible read.
Well, regardless, like that's what she's craving though.
Yeah.
It's this freedom and this run around naked in the woods. Just like
well, it's to be who you are. So, like, one of the, like, central things about this, one of the central tensions in this movie is why there's so many scenes that are weird and uncomfortable between her and her brother and her dad. And, like, all this is that repression breeds perversion. It's the idea that if you are so oppressed, if you're never allowed around a member of the opposite sex, if you're never, then who else where else does that energy go? Yeah. Like, who else do you look to? Like, and
it messes with you.
It would mess with your head. And it's this idea that, like, when you're so restricted, then it's so easy to, like, falter. There's a Voltaire quote that's in the beginning of that documentary I sent you that I think sums this up perfectly. And it's, if they can convince you of absurdities, they can make you commit atrocities. And, like, so if we can convince someone that witches are real and they're the reason that your crops are failing and you're like, then we can make you burn a bunch of innocent women.
Right.
And, like,
And pretty much
yeah.
any other atrocity.
Any other
yeah.
atrocity we've
Genocide,
ever
that's-
committed
Yeah,
in
anything.
It's been
human
committed.
history.
It's the same
But
mindset.
Right.
in the context of this film,
And-
that is
Yeah, no,
exactly-
yeah.
So I think that's also true in the reverse of like, it's always baffled me that like even modern religion goes with witches are real and there's something you have to worry about for the like saving of your keeping your
Yeah.
soul safe is like what why is that what we go with and like it baffles me to a certain extent. So like I think even to that extent of like, well, if you tell someone that this is possible because you don't want them to do it, then you're opening the door for them to seek it out.
Mm.
That's true.
And I think
That's with
that-
anything.
Yeah.
That goes with the restriction thing. I mean, anytime you restrict somebody from something,
They're just going to want
they're
it.
going to
more.
want it more.
Yeah.
right.
Same thing with like as simple as diets.
Yeah.
If you go on a diet, you're only going to crave what you can't have.
And that want can turn perverse, like,
Yeah.
or turn towards something that is unhealthy. Like
Right,
even the
for
mother
sure.
talking about like,
Is that why we look at chocolate cake as like kind of sexy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Strawberries.
I think so.
Strawberries.
I can't have that chocolate.
Drizzling
Oh, don't look
chocolate.
at me.
Yeah, I think that's possibly it. Well, especially like as Americans, we're particularly prudish as a society. Yeah, witches have always symbolized freedom and education, and it's the only like point of historical inaccuracy in this is that Thomason can't write.
Yeah,
Oh,
Puritan women were taught to write because it was very important that they be able to read the Bible.
yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with all my not really enjoying the movie, and like I said,
what parts did
it's
you
a
like?
fine movie. I will double down on the fact that you said it was really well shot, and the fact that it brought you into that. You were
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
You were secluded. I did get that secluded feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I did. That is like one of the only feelings I caught.
think
But I did get that. So I do think that was done really well. And so
I think part of that is like it's shot digitally, but he shot it with natural light.
mhm.
So there's not key light coming from any
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
space. So it just, and the way they graded it is it just kind of like looks how it would look if you were there.
Right.
Like the skin tones, the trees without leaves, and
Yeah.
the cornfield. It just looks. If you walk outside like right now in the winter in West Virginia,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's gray
what it's-
and
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's gray and brown. Like there's no other
Yeah.
real colors anywir.
Well,
Yeah,
and central to folk horror is that feeling of seclusion, which I
Yeah.
like folk horror as a genre in general. So like this really,
Yeah.
but
Well,
you're saying,
I mean, it's and that's what I think it did well. It did that. It definitely hit the history and a lot of correct things in history. And so that was interesting to me, but it's also stuff I already know.
Mhm.
So I think there was just something missing that didn't pull me into that mood.
Mhm.
Had I been pulled into that mood, which once again, I'm not a big period piece person
Mhm.
for pleasure. If I'm watching like a documentary, it's different. But if I'm watching a movie, I'm not much of a. But
I feel like considering this a documentary would have been solid advice for you.
Yep.
Because it's not,
probably so.
but like to consider
kinda-
it that
it-
way,
it-
it,
it-
kind of is.
It makes me want to watch a documentary.
Well,
about
good
the Salem
news.
witch trial.
And
I know
then-
you. I know.
and that's
7 hours worth.
that's
on
the
YouTube.
thing. I would love to
And
watch
it's
a
a-
documentary about it.
And not as I plugged to this video, but like it's a really well made video.
It's so well researched too. It's like
Sorry.
stupidly well
So,
researched.
and that might be more interesting to me.
yeah,
100%.
honestly.
But I think that's just what what pulled me out of it is I think I'm someone that doesn't like to mix my fact and fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Like I either want it to be fake or I want it to be real and be like a documentary.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I watch a lot about serial killers, but I don't read a lot of fiction about it.
I feel like if we
Yeah.
had the deleted scene kills in this, it might have also hit a little better
Yeah.
for you as
I mean,
well.
yeah, also if I'd seen
Any
I don't
blood.
know.
Yeah.
What?
So there is deleted scenes where the twins get ripped apart.
Oh.
So you
Yeah,
know
that would've
for-
made it
yeah,
way
so
better.
that you know for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, they're laying by the fire, and you could see Mercy's
Oh.
face. Yeah, the twins are dead.
I didn't. Oh, I know
Yeah,
that.
the
I mean, I
twins are-
didn't.
That's also
I
why
didn't know that was a deleted scene.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, I
deleted
didn't know
scene
that.
where the witch turns to the twins and rips them apart. There's also a deleted scene with Black Phillip violently copulating with the nanny goat that like
Oh.
what's her face like walks.
That was just like, that just happened on the day, and we're like, we can write this into the movie.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah.
Like, dang you, Black Phillip.
Yeah.
This is good content for the movie.
So okay, well y'all know Black Phillip's obviously the devil. Did you
Clearly.
catch the other? Did you catch all the other animals that are?
They're the devil?
They're witches.
I only saw the white goat.
There's the black goat.
Oh,
There's-
obviously the dang little evil. They're evil, anyways. Rabbit.
The rabbits.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
the
not a
witch-
rabbit fan.
Well, the witch rabbit is definitely a thing. It's also important that rabbit is not a native rabbit, and part of that is probably like, film just film budget things.
Yeah.
But that is a rabbit from England that they
Yeah.
brought to do
Okay.
the film. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like very
I don't know.
clearly
I don't like rabbits.
because the idea
They're
of
evil.
the satanic witch is obviously English. It is. They are English. They are
Yeah.
not. They're not native. They're not like.
Right.
So the rabbit being an English rabbit is like a very important like nod
Okay.
in the film. Also, I find that funny because horses do tend to be a little bit frightened of rabbits. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a
Um,
horse in the movie.
Yeah,
too.
so like
Yeah.
that's one. Obviously, like the raven, and in the
Yeah,
final scene where
yeah.
she's like pecking the woman's chest.
Oh, I guess there were a lot of animals in this.
Yeah,
movie.
there's a
I
lot
guess
of
so,
animals
now
in
that
this
I'm
movie. Yeah. But
I was
yeah,
like, there was a black sheep.
the witch rabbit though is comes from a Scottish account of a witch that
Yeah.
got turned into a rabbit in order to do the like devil's bidding and things like that. Oh no, there's
Interesting.
so what were some things that you did like you said you liked the mood. Were there any particular scenes that stood out to you that you were like this is kind of cool, or either of you? This is an open question.
Okay. I like the language a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of why it feels so
Yeah.
genuine.
Well, it's almost all
Authentic.
from journals.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
whatnot.
there's a little thing at the start of the
Mhm.
movie that says that, right?
Mhm.
And it does feel like, well, that's how they would have talked. Like,
Yeah, I found that a little annoying, but that's okay.
I mean,
well,
But once again, that's why I don't like period pieces. I
I
don't.
don't like the language.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm all for like a British accent, but once they're using all kinds of old words, I'm just
not a big fan of Shakespeare then.
not a big fan.
Not
Yeah.
big fan. Well, the thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's great, but I mean, I don't
Walk
want
that
to
back.
sit down and like read him all the time.
Okay.
There's a lot of like, I mean, yes, that is a lot of the prayers come from like the Common Book of Prayer, which was its publication at the time. The Black Phillip song is awesome in terms of like the way it twists like Christian mythology. It says when they're singing like Black Phillip, king of all,
Mhm.
is wed to Nanny Queen, but it ends with he eats the lions in their den,
Mm.
which is a reference to like Daniel in the lion's den in the Bible.
Yeah.
But what God does in the Bible is hold the mouths of the lions closed.
Mm.
It's essentially like, and this is something that's in that document. Again, we're gonna have to put the link to the documentary somewhere out there with
We
this,
can do that.
because it's a very good one. It's essentially applying that like, and is saying that the devil, and they say king of sun and sea, king of it's like the devil has more agency in earth than God.
Yeah,
Like he's eating the lions in their den instead of just closing their mouths. Like he's, has here. It's basically saying it's the classic thing when like someone's like, "Oh my God," in a horror movie, and someone's like, "There's no God here" or whatever.
yeah.
That's that moment, and
Right.
it's so innocent, like coming out of the mouths of babes, where it's
Yeah.
just like,
I like that.
it's saying there is no God here. There is no one to save you from this. You're too far from salvation. You can't, and there have been a couple fan theories that like try to align each person to one of the 7 deadly sins, which is not. I don't think that one holds a lot of water, but it is neat because they all
How
do
many
have their
people are in
moments
the
of
movie?
sin. There are 7.
Are there?
There are 7. If you count the baby Samuel, there are 7 family members.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I now at the end, I think the ending where she just kind of floats up,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Whether that was because it was actually cool or because it was finally ending, I'm not sure. But
No, it's really cool. It's
I did.
very
objectively
cool.
I did like how they she floated up and that was the end.
Her pose is from a very famous, I can't remember the painting, but a very famous painting of like
Mhm.
the night hag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
it's a beautiful
yeah.
sequence.
Yeah.
It's a-
I mean, that was shot well.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I think the whole movie was shot well and it was done well. Tons of research went into it. You can tell.
Mm-hmm.
It
Just not appealing to you.
It just as a movie to watch for pleasure, it just didn't do anything.
Could have done with a little more child mutilation.
Yes, 100%.
Well, you could have done. I figured that the relative bloodlessness of the movie,
Yeah.
because that's not
What-
where the scary comes in. It comes in
Right.
in the
That's never the scary part of
psychology.
movies.
Well,
Yeah.
no.
It's not the gore.
No.
It's not like
It is the fun part a lot of times.
it's fun part, and depending on the movie, it is. But like, and I think that's why
The baby
this-
paste didn't even like interest you a bit. It's
It
mostly
was-
gross.
At that point, it was more, why is this woman naked? Why is there a naked old woman in all the
Well,
A24
so we
movies?
just
your brain's just very
just
confused. Like baby
overlooked-
paste, naked woman.
Overlook the
Yeah.
fact that we're busy making Jamuel over here.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I totally, honestly, I forgot about that part because
Yeah.
my head was so on, why does A24 horror use naked old people? Yeah, back to the baby paste moment. If they were making baby paste or jelly or whatever, and
I'm
and
going
it-
with Jamuel.
like I would have been, if they were making Jamuel, I think it would have been so much better to just see like an old person's hands doing it.
Yeah, than
For
her
me,
whole body.
That would have probably pulled me in more,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I think you got some issues.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he's just like, this is gross. Why? Well, and it's meant to be though. Like the old
It is.
I mean, it's not even that it's gross. I think in my mind, I just went straight to Hereditary and all the old people and I never understood that either. And I'm just like,
Well,
why
'cause
are there
it's like,
naked old people?
It's similar, like a witch
Yeah.
kind of,
Well,
right?
Yeah,
It's a witch, right?
yeah.
It's been a few years since I've seen it, but it's
Hereditary's a demon.
same kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Hunting a family.
well, and now that I've mentioned this and we've talked about it, you explaining to me why they use naked older people.
You just need me to watch
That
every
makes
movie with you.
sense.
do you
Yeah.
you have any other questions about things they did in the movie? We got you.
No,
No,
I'm good on the
you're
rest.
good on the
I
rest of
knew
it.
all the rest and knew what was happening.
Knew what was happening.
And I think that for me was another thing. I like to be surprised.
Yeah.
I do. When I'm watching it for, like, if I'm watching a documentary, most likely I know the ending.
Mhm.
But when I'm watching a movie for fun, I like to be surprised or something. And
Yeah.
it just didn't at all do
I-
anything for me.
I just like all the deep-seated religious trauma, like really.
Yeah,
plays
and
into
I
it.
love
It's
that
a
kinda
lot of
stuff.
fun. Like it's
And it doesn't hit you over the head with it.
no.
no,
It's very like under the.
It,
under
well,
the
it makes you
surface.
live it, right? So
Yeah.
it makes you live in this land of doubt with Thomason about like what's good, what's bad, who's like how hypocritical can my father be and still be a man of God in this, and the whole like having grown up in church, I think a lot of the references that like are made really hit for me, and
Mhm.
also they're in the every time her father did something, I was like, it's deep seated. It's a deep seated
Right.
dislike for people who try to tell you how to live
Mhm.
when they themselves are just blind to their own sin. And it's like that,
And I,
Yeah.
part of me wonders if that's why it didn't pull me in is because of the lore that it touched on, the religious type of things that it's
Mhm.
touched on. I know extensively about that kind of stuff and have my own traumas, and it's just like it's like it was almost I was there living it with them, but I've lived it.
yeah,
Like,
I've lived it.
Sorry.
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing here.
I know why you
happening.
don't like goats now.
Yeah. There-
You go to some random farm, it's like, why is this damn goat talking to me? Telling me to
But,
kill
like-
kill my siblings.
but like it's just everything that happened in my mind
Mhm.
was like, well, duh. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? There was nothing surprising. There was nothing out of like just for me, it was a flatliner.
I do
and
feel
I'm
like
that's life.
when the movie came out, the baby paste was probably enough of an envelope
For sure.
pusher to like keep people from the fact that everyone who dies.
Yeah, I've never made baby paste.
Is basically a child.
never
It
made
was
jam
part of
or
it, but
Samuel
like
or
yeah, I
whatever.
mean, I think
Wow.
for you, a little more violence would have helped. But like, if there's too much violence, then the evil stops being seductive, right?
Yeah, no,
So,
I agree. I think it's perfect level
Yeah.
for me.
If you were Thomas, what choice do you make at the end of the movie?
Oh, I'd just join the witches at the beginning.
You just say F it, walk into the woods.
They already think I'm a witch. I might as well be.
So we all up to out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got any baby paste?
Well, like, I mean, I've had people argue that like, oh, well, she could have just gone back to and it's like, no, she couldn't.
No,
Anyone comes to investigate that, she's
the
burning.
witch, 100%.
Like,
No, and that's why I like, in my mind, if I was like back then, I mean, I guess I wouldn't have known everything I know, but knowing everything I know, my thing would be I'd rather join them at the beginning and maybe try to convince them to like not kill my family, maybe kill another family. Like, hey, I'm one of you. You know?
It's a real like Bart Simpson kind of movie. I feel like.
Yeah.
hey, look,
You don't want to kill my.
I'll
family.
help you
Yeah.
kill the next batch of unbaptized children that
Right.
come into the world.
Exactly.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Um,
Plus, if, I mean, being a girl back then, and she was already going to be the witch.
Yeah.
Like, just accept it. You're the witch.
Like, there's not.
I think that inevitability is what's appealing
Yeah.
to me about the movie.
is that she doesn't really have her other choice is to starve to death in the woods because she can't go back to town.
Yeah.
And like, what's she supposed?
That's why I said I would have
Yeah,
just joined in the
yeah.
beginning. Like, cut to the chase.
Well, to be fair, I don't think she knew witches were real in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, back then, it would have been harder choice, I'm sure.
Now we know they're real.
Right. Would have been a harder choice.
I mean, like, I don't think she knew that this was like, I think she is in the same weird.
Oh, for
state
sure.
She's
of,
definitely the
like-
audience proxy. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Is this
No.
actually happening? Like, yeah.
Right.
Then she's like, "Oh, wait, what?"
Yeah.
And I think, once again, I learn a lot on this podcast from you guys. Today I've learned, more. Again, now I know why they use naked old people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now that might help with movies moving forward.
I mean, you seem
And-
to have an issue with just nudity in general.
It's not nudity, it's unnecessary nudity. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's probably some other trauma. Who knows?
That's I think that's tied up in
And-
the exact same trauma.
Right.
In fact.
But so I've learned about that, and I've also learned that Toby didn't have much to say about this movie.
Not a whole lot.
No,
No,
not
not.
much.
I only talked for
I wish-
30 minutes straight all by myself.
Yeah. I wish
Wow.
you had, more.
I have so much.
Um, no, I don't actually. I was kidding.
I can regurgitate like most of that 7-hour documentary
No.
plus some of my own opinions.
That's
about
fine. Maybe
what
I'll watch it, but yeah, I
Join
think
Toby on her exclusive podcast,
about the witch.
happened.
8.5-hour episode.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, beautifully shot. I think it did well. Obviously, it hits well with the right audience.
And it was only $4 million.
That's not horrible.
No, it's really low
That's
budget.
really low
Yeah.
budget.
I mean, really,
It
There's
shouldn't
not
look
much
that good.
there.
I mean, it's like the house and the
Yeah.
farmland, and then you got like a few visual effect shots, and that's
Right.
it. Like,
But yeah, I think it was well done. For me, it didn't hit. I would give it one thumb.
one thumb.
It's obviously 2 for me.
That's two.
It,
for me.
it would be 2 plus any extra thumbs I may have.
Okay, so 5 thumbs up for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it hits for you, it's a decent movie, but it just didn't hit. On our next episode, we are going to have Todd, our director, back on, and we are going to go back to a 2-movie format just for the special episode. We are going to do a physical sports episode.
This is still wrestling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's,
arm wrestling.
it's
I'm
arm wrestling.
going to request that you don't call it physical sports.
Oh, okay. Well, it is.
That's true.
I'm going to say it's still wrestling. It's
Okay.
wrestling all over, and it's just 2 different types.
Okay, so we're going back to some wrestling, and it's going to be Ready to Rumble. And
Over the top.
well, I will say this is one that I'm excited. We've talked about it. I don't know for sure. I think sometimes we've talked about it on here, but we've definitely talked about it.
I mean, you talk
outside
about
of
Ready
here
to
as
Rumble
well.
a lot.
We've talked.
Yeah.
We've talked about Over the Top. We talked about when we did The Wizard. because
Okay.
it's
Oh
based-
yeah,
I was gonna
they're
say, I
very
know we
similar
talked about it.
movies.
But it is one that I am super excited for. I want to watch Over the Top. In fact, I might try to watch it. I might go ahead and check it out. And try to watch it. And then Ready to Rumble, I do love. So that's going to be our next episode, which I think is going to be a really fun episode.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
We always enjoy having Todd on here, too.
I love a good Toddcast.
Yeah, which we usually do really fun movies for those. So definitely join us next time. But until then, I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
I'm Toby.
And this has been The Real Opposites.